You know, the instant that you set yourself a goal or a target, decide that you want more, be more, have more, do more, get a promotion at work, have a better relationship with your spouse, deeper, more meaningful relationship with your kids, all of those sort of things. The instant that you say that you want to do better than you are at the moment, then what you do is you make yourself vulnerable, because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to step out into the open and say, this is what I want. And that allows us, that kind of like paints 2 or 3 big red circles on here saying target, because people who like to criticise now have got something to criticise. So what we tend to do, our Anglo-Saxon background and upbringing, is say, keep a stiff upper lip and don't let people know what's going on with you. Be tough and just front your way through it, and the criticism can bounce off and all the rest of it. The symbolism is really basically, if you're not tough, you must be weak, and therefore you will lose, because all these people who like to criticise have suddenly got an open target, and away they go, and they're going to have a bonanza, and somehow or other we are going to be crucified. The reality is it's not actually anything like that at all. The moment that you decide you're going to show a bit of vulnerability, and I do want to acknowledge the amazing work done by Brene Brown on that. I would recommend that you get her book and you read it cover to cover, because it's superior, fabulous work. I'm just doing a kind of a look into it at the moment, not the book, but the idea of vulnerability. Really what I'm going to suggest to you is that the moment that you decide they can say what they like, and that tells me more about them than it tells me about me. In other words, their negativity is actually their problem, not mine. They're entitled to their opinion, and if they're critical, well, good on you. As far as being critical, I don't think you're very good at it. You should have another turn. You could be harder and crueler and meaner and nastier. So go away and have another go at it. Come back and you can have another shot. If you look at what I'm saying, that's vulnerability demonstrating strength. In other words, is that your best shot? Is that the best that you could do? Is that the worst insult you could throw at me? Because really, that's pretty pathetic. And we don't have to say that to people. We just need to know for ourselves that when you're choosing to move forward, when you're aiming at something that is good for you or your family, in your opinion, that's worth it by itself. And becoming vulnerable about it by saying, okay, that's what I want, sure, that opens you up. But I'm going to suggest that you open up is a better version of you than you close down. Because you see, vulnerability is actually a strength. Because what we're saying is, I don't need to build the barriers around me. So the thing that most of us think about is, well, I need to keep a barrier between me and everybody else. I'm going to be private. I'm not going to tell everybody everything. And, I've had clients over the years say, I'm not telling anybody, I'm not putting it on Facebook that I've been in hospital, or that I've had plastic surgery, or that I've suffered from some disease or whatever. I'm not going to tell anyone because, I don't even know why, but I'm not. And then maybe when I get through, I'll announce it to that. And it kind of looks like we're protecting ourselves. But the trouble is, when we put barriers between us and the possible attacks that can come from the rest of the world, you've got to ask yourself, well, what shape does that barrier need to be? If I'm going to put something between me and any possible criticism or negativity, and it's a brick wall, what shape has that brick wall got to be? Obviously, a brick wall out the front only saves me from frontal attacks. So the brick wall ends up being circular. And the problem with a circular brick wall around myself is it's isolating. And so what happens is I end up isolated, wondering where all the people are. I feel excluded from what's going on. The consequences of that are loneliness. And so mostly what happens is I have to toughen myself up to that and say, well, I don't care anyway. So when I'm alone, because I've put these barriers up, remember the barriers right around me, when I'm alone, am I going to blame me, or am I going to say people don't try anymore? When I was talking with a client during the week who said, people are awful, I hate people, animals are much better. And I was thinking, people are only awful because you listen to what they say and you take it on board. Sure, maybe some people are, but other people are beautiful. Other people are magnificent. And, that client didn't say that their children were awful, and they got 3 kids, and they weren't saying those 3 people were awful, or that the husband or the wife was awful. So really that person ended up hard. And the hardness is meant to be the kind of the shield or the barrier that protects me, but it's very brittle and it's easy to get through. And I said to this person, I said, do you enjoy being alone? And they said, I like being by myself. I said, you didn't answer the question, do you enjoy being alone? Well, they burst into tears and said, nobody wants to know me, nobody tries. Nobody reaches out, and I'm saying, well, why would they? You've been rebuffing them for such a long period of time, showing how tough you are and that you don't need them. Why would they keep doing that? So really, when you think about it, vulnerability is actually an act of courage. It's to go inside and find some strength that's not from a wall, but is from my heart. And so vulnerability, think about it, it's an act of courage. If you're thinking about taking that up and going, that makes sense, then I'm going to suggest you don't start with everything. Start small. What are the small things that you would like to speak up about? What are the small things that you could do that would open you up for possible criticism, but those things are not actually a big deal? You see, when you open your heart, what happens is you find your strength, you find your wisdom, you find your humility, you find your ability to connect with others. Vulnerability, my friends, is the big one. It's the pathway forward. The more you open yourself to connection with other human beings, the richer your life experience will be. We don't need loneliness. We're a pack animal. We get together so that we can find ourselves in our connection with other human beings. If we've got the barrier around us, that's likely not going to happen. We're going to blame them. So understand this. Vulnerability is actually an act of love. What it's doing is it's saying, I'm going to detach from my ego and I'm going to come from who I really am. And if that's not good enough for them, then that's going to be their problem. Give it a go. Small doses. Give it a go.